What happens when a congressman looks the Secretary of Defense in the eye and accuses him of lying, while at the very same time military families are accusing that same congressman of putting their loved ones in danger? That's not just political theater, that's a crisis playing out at the heart of American power. And in this story, every word spoken carries the weight of national security, global strategy, and the lives of men and women on the front lines. From the halls of Washington to the tense corridors of NATO's eastern flank, the clash between truth, accountability, and ambition has never been more explosive. And as we peel back each layer of this confrontation, you'll see why this hearing has sent shockwaves far beyond Capitol Hill.
From Virginia, Mr. Vindman.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I ask unanimous consent to submit for the record an article. A distinguished member of this committee,
Without objection, so ordered.
confirmed that there was, in fact, a pause in offensive cyber operations earlier this year. The SecDef just denied this. This committee deserves to know whether the Secretary just lied. Mr. Secretary, many believed you were underqualified for this role. You've been Secretary for 4.5 months now. For the sake of the American people and our service members, I hope you've done your homework since. Let's talk Indo-PACOM. What year has the Navy publicly set as the benchmark for being ready to fight a war with China?
Well, it needs to be right now. We know what China has said.
I'm glad to hear that, but there is a
it's
publicly set date.
Well, we know it wouldn't be
Let me help you
prudent
out.
for me in this environment to
2027.
reveal when we think we're ready. That's what China has said, and we understand what they're
Secretary,
saying,
I
and
asked
we want to
for
be
a year.
capable and ready for it.
Not a filibuster. 2027 is the year. According to unclassified DoD assessments, how many warships does China have in its Navy today?
Many and growing.
370. It's the largest Navy in the world. How many does the U.S. Navy have today?
Thanks to this budget, it's increasing
It's a number. I'm looking
substantially.
for a number.
But it's just south of 300.
296, pretty close. How many ships is China expected to field by 2030?
I believe that's a classified number, but it's going to go up
There's
at
a
a
DoD
rapid rate.
CMPR report that was released. There's an unclassified number.
It's going up at a rapid rate.
Let me help you out. 435. Let's see if we do better in EUCOM. What corridor in eastern Poland is vulnerable and a priority for U.S. reinforcements? It connects Belarus to a Russian region.
I'm sure you can tell me.
I can tell you. It's the Suwalki Gap. Which heavily militarized Russian territory connected the Suwalki Gap? It contains nuclear-capable missiles. It threatens all of NATO. It's right there in the middle of Eastern Europe.
I see we're playing a quiz game here.
It's
Ultimately,
Kaliningrad
thankfully,
Oblast.
we're
Let
getting
me-
our NATO allies to step up in their spending to make sure that they can hold the
Mr.
line.
Secretary, I asked you a specific question. Thank you. It's Kaliningrad Oblast. So what percentage of Ukrainian frontline casualties, let's talk drones, are now caused by FPV drones?
A very large percentage, and we're studying that conflict closely to understand
I hope so.
that fact.
It's over 70%. And which U.S. service has written doctrine or standardized procurement for integration of FPV drones?
That's the Army.
I wish that were the case, but actually the answer is none of them. So we're not prepared yet, and we need to get there fast. Let me turn to a different topic. A few weeks ago, when my office opened up in Fredericksburg, I spoke to the mother of one F-18 pilot who flew the March 15th mission over the Red Sea in Yemen that you discussed over Signal. I spoke to her again on Tuesday and asked her if there was anything she wanted me to bring up. She believes that you need to resign. She also had several questions, but one thing, she said she would appreciate an apology for putting classified information. Her son couldn't even tell her where the Truman was going, but into the Houthi PC small group signal chat that risked her son's life and the mission. Mr. Secretary, yes or no, do you think you owe her an apology?
Please make sure to let her know how grateful we are for the skill and heroism of her.
I am very much grateful. I'm sure everybody in this room is grateful. I'm proud of what her son has done. The question is, do you owe her an apology for your actions? Are you going to be accountable?
It was an incredibly successful mission. Her son did great work.
They did a magnificent
and
job.
Thankfully, the Houthi campaign was successful.
Secretary, I agree with you. Magnificent job. The performance of those pilots and Navy personnel, magnificent. We're talking about what you did and accountability. Are you going to apologize to the mother or not?
I don't apologize for success.
You don't apologize for putting her son's life in danger and for putting the mission in jeopardy. Well, that's really disappointing and not befitting the type of leadership that our troops and families deserve. It's frankly a stunning lack of OPSEC. Privates are trained to do much better than that. It was reckless. And it sounds like that accountability doesn't extend as far as the Secretary of Defense. So I think you should resign. The mother says she wants you gone. And with that, I yield back.
Because when the stakes involve cyber warfare, China's military expansion, and the very survival of pilots risking their lives in hostile skies, nothing is simple and nothing is safe. Congressman Alexander Vindman wasted no time throwing punches. His opening salvo was direct and unapologetic. Had the Secretary of Defense lied about a pause in offensive cyber operations, the accusation landed like a thunderclap. Cyber operations aren't just another policy debate, they are the hidden wars fought in silence, the invisible front lines where America measures strength against rivals like Russia, China, and Iran. To suggest that a pause existed, and then to have it denied, wasn't just a discrepancy. Vindman made it sound like a deception, a breach of trust between the Pentagon and Congress, one that could undermine the very checks and balances designed to keep leaders honest. But for Vindman, this wasn't about politeness or protocol, it was about truth. And he wasn't about to let the Secretary filibuster his way out of it. This wasn't a softball exchange, the kind where politicians pat themselves on the back for asking tough questions while leaving the status quo intact. This was a grilling, pure and simple. Vindman reminded the Secretary that critics had already called him unqualified and unprepared for his role. Now after 4.5 months, the congressman demanded to know, had he done his homework, or was America being led by someone flying blind? These words weren't just for the Secretary. They were for the American people, for the service members who deserve more than spin. Vindman knew the cameras were rolling, and he made sure to put the word lied squarely on the record. It wasn't just a question, it was an accusation that hung in the air, one that no denial could erase. And if the cyber warfare confrontation wasn't enough, Vindman raised the stakes further by dragging America's greatest rival into the conversation, China. With laser focus, he turned the spotlight to the Navy and demanded answers about readiness. What year had the Navy publicly set as its benchmark for being ready to fight a war with China? The Secretary tried to sidestep, mumbling about prudence and environments, but Vindman wasn't having it. He wanted the number. He wanted the truth. Finally, the year surfaced: 2027, the very date the Pentagon had quietly penciled in as the milestone for readiness. To Vindman, this wasn't just strategy, it was a ticking time bomb. The numbers told their own story. China's Navy already boasted 370 warships, the U.S. fleet stood at 296, and by 2030, Beijing's arsenal was projected to rise to 435, the largest in the world. That's not just a statistic, it's a roadmap to dominance. While Washington debated budgets and timelines, China was building for confrontation. For Vindman, this gap in urgency was unforgivable. He thundered that America couldn't afford to wait until 2027. By then China might already be dictating terms. The question he left hanging was chilling: was America preparing for the future, or already falling behind? But Vindman didn't stop there. He shifted gears to Europe, to NATO's most vulnerable corridor, and suddenly the hearing turned into a quiz. The question, what corridor in eastern Poland was most vulnerable and a priority for U.S. reinforcements? The Secretary hesitated. He stammered. Vindman pounced. The answer was the gap, that narrow strip of land connecting Poland and Lithuania, hemmed in by Russian and Belarusian territory, bristling with nuclear-capable missiles. A choke point so vital that military planners describe it as NATO's Achilles heel. Vindman didn't just highlight a geography lesson, he spotlighted the terrifying possibility of a NATO-Russia clash igniting from a single vulnerable gap. And yet, while Vindman pushed hard on geography and strategy, the battlefield reality he raised next was even more alarming. He pointed to Ukraine, where the war has become a laboratory for modern conflict. Over 70% of frontline casualties, he revealed, are now caused by FPV drones, first-person view systems that turn cheap technology into deadly precision weapons. The secretary acknowledged the reality, but Vindman wasn't satisfied. He asked which branch of the U.S. military had standardized doctrine for integrating FPV drones. The answer: none. Not the Army, not the Navy, not the Air Force. America had no unified playbook. In other words, the most significant shift in modern warfare had caught the Pentagon flat-footed. Vindman's message was clear: the future of war isn't coming, it's already here, and the U.S. isn't ready. The hearing might have continued on this strategic track, but then the tone shifted, and it became deeply personal. Vindman told the story of a mother he met in his Virginia district, the mother of an F-18 pilot who flew a mission over the Red Sea in Yemen. That mother, he said, believed her son's life had been put at risk not by the enemy, but by reckless decisions in Washington. She claimed that classified mission details had been leaked into a private chat, exposing information her son couldn't even share with her, but which found its way into vulnerable channels. To her, this wasn't politics, it was her child's life on the line, and she demanded accountability. She wanted Vindman to deliver one message straight to the secretary: resign. The words carried the weight of grief and fury. A mother's voice echoed through the halls of Congress, amplified by a congressman who knew exactly how to weaponize it. When he pressed the secretary to apologize, the moment crystallized. Was leadership about taking responsibility, or about hiding behind bureaucratic success? The secretary praised the mission's outcome, calling it magnificent, and refused to apologize. Vindman's reply was swift and brutal. Refusing to apologize wasn't strength, it was weakness. It was reckless, a violation of the very operational security that privates are trained to uphold. And in Vindman's eyes, it was grounds for resignation. This was no longer about cyber operations or naval ship counts, it was about accountability at the highest levels of government. Vindman's closing words carried the sharp edge of condemnation. When leaders risk lives and shrug off responsibility, they forfeit their right to lead. His demand for resignation wasn't just political theater, it was a thunderclap that exposed the chasm between military families' sacrifices and Washington's evasions. But here's where the story takes its darkest twist. While Vindman grilled the secretary and demanded accountability, questions lingered about Vindman himself. Was he truly the champion of truth and transparency, or was he using these hearings to deflect from his own controversies? Critics argue that the same man accusing others of reckless behavior had himself been accused of compromising classified information. It's this clash of accusations that turns the hearing into something larger than a political spat. It becomes a mirror reflecting the deeper rot in Washington, where accountability is demanded loudly but often dodged quietly. And yet, no matter how one views Vindman's motives, the facts he forced onto the record cannot be ignored. America's cyber readiness is in question. China's naval dominance is accelerating. NATO's weakest point is staring Russia in the face. Drone warfare is rewriting the rules of combat. And families of service members are demanding a level of accountability Washington seems unwilling to provide. What happened in that hearing wasn't just another day on Capitol Hill, it was a warning shot to the nation, a reminder that power without accountability is dangerous, that strategy without urgency is reckless, and that leadership without humility is hollow. The stakes aren't abstract, they're measured in the lives of pilots, sailors, soldiers, and families who live with the consequences of every decision. So now the question isn't just whether the Secretary of Defense should resign. The question is whether America's leaders, all of them, are ready to face the truth. Are they prepared to confront China's growing navy before it's too late? Are they willing to modernize for drone warfare before another frontline bleeds? Are they willing to admit mistakes, even when it stings? Or will they continue to bury the truth in the crossfire of politics, while families bear the cost? What side of this debate are you on? Was Vindman a fearless voice demanding accountability, or a politician using outrage to mask his own missteps? The truth may lie somewhere in between, but one thing is certain: when national security becomes a battlefield for internal power struggles, the truth is the first casualty. If you've made it this far, I want to hear what you think. Drop your thoughts in the comments below. Do you think Vindman was right to demand accountability, or do you think he crossed the line? And if you found this breakdown eye-opening, make sure to hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications, because the next video dives into an even bigger controversy, one that makes today's debate look like just the beginning. Stay tuned.